Welcome back, you guys. I have Dan Money Isle here. It's somebody that I've met through doing these YouTube videos, and so I'm actually really excited to share what he's talked to me about, what different techniques and tips and pieces of advice that he's given. Quoted him in my last video. You know, the best time to invest was 20 years ago, but the next best time is right now. So he is a financial professional, helping people save for retirement, know where to put their money, and other useful things like we're going to talk about the Rule of 72, 7 Money Milestones. But without further ado, I will let him introduce himself further. So Dan, welcome.
Hey, Bo, thanks for having me on. Really appreciate it. I was telling some of my colleagues, I'm like, "Oh, you're gonna be famous." I'm like, "No, no, no."
hopefully we'll get to that point.
Hopefully, yeah, awesome. Yeah, I'll just kind of tell you a little bit about how I got into the business of finances, and really, I mean, I think kind of started with the mentality when I was just 11 years old. I was always saving money. My brother and I had a paper out together, and I was always saving my money. And it got to a point where my mom tells me when she started calling me Daniel Money. And I asked her one day, "Mom, why do you always call me Daniel Money?" She said, "Well, because you always have money." I'm like, "Oh, okay, that makes sense." And so now that I'm in the industry, that's just part of me. It's always been part of me, and it's on my business card, Daniel Money Isle. So it just makes sense.
Yeah.
About 9 years ago, I was working for a company. I was liking that, making good money, meeting lots of people. I'm a people person. But what I didn't like was the fact that I was working 10 or 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, and had like no time with my family. And by the time I got home, I'm just like dead, ready to go to sleep. I didn't see my wife, I didn't see my kid really much at all. I didn't like that lifestyle. I wanted a lifestyle where I could basically choose my hours, where I could choose to be my own boss and things like that. And so I actually came across the financial industry 3 different times over the course of 3 years from 3 different sources. And I'm a God fearing man. And so I'm like, okay, Heavenly Father, one, two, three, I guess I got to do this, right? It's up to me. And so yeah, after the third time, I'm like, yeah, let's do this industry. And I've learned from the best minds in the industry who have decades of experience, and I just have absorbed everything that they can teach me. Am I perfectly implementing everything? Probably not.
We're all working on
But
it.
I'm
Yep.
much better today than when I first started. And so it's just a joy. I love making a difference in people's lives. They don't know where they want to go to have someone help them out, because people, they love helping other people, but when it comes to having them help, I think in our culture it's kind of a prideful thing to ask for help.
Yeah.
And so like, no, I can figure it out on my own, but then they just don't prioritize it.
And I think that's why we've connected so well, because you and I both have that similar goal to help people understand money and not be afraid to talk about this vulnerable subject. It's very vulnerable. A lot of couples fight about it. We don't
Oh
talk
yeah,
about other people with it because they may have more
it's
than
one of the
us.
biggest reasons for divorce is finances.
Yeah. So, and that's what we're hoping to do is kind of educate and help understand that finances, money, it's just a tool. It's something that we have to use to live in this world. So let's make the most of it so that way, like you, we can spend our time where it matters most to us. So, some scary facts about people and finances and that financial illiteracy that we've dealt with in the country.
So
Yes.
really the problem in the world is that just people are financially illiterate. Most people don't know how money really works. And so that's my passion, and that's what I do. And so there's 5+ billion people throughout the world today that are financially illiterate. Not only that, but 44% of Americans can't cover a $400 emergency. I mean, I come across this all the time. Even people that are making 6, 7 figure incomes, they will be making lots of money, but they just spend like there's no tomorrow. So sometimes they can't even cover a $400 emergency. And on top of that, only 21 out of 50 states are required to have a personal finance course to be taken in high school. And even then, who knows how good that is? And just those three facts alone are just really scary. And that's why it's so important for people to understand how money really works.
Yeah, no, those are some very scary facts and things that, I never had a financial class growing up. I didn't really start looking about it until, I got married and started realizing, hey, my time is money, and I'm spending a lot of time away from my family trying to make this money where it just goes out. And when we were talking before this, one of the big questions that you get, and I think this comes because we don't understand money, is how much do I need for retirement? Do you have a formula, or how do you help people know how much they need for retirement?
No, that's a great question, and for everybody is a little bit different. But I mean, if you say, "Hey, I want to be able to have a goal of maybe $1 million by age 67," then it really just starts with really the compound interest in the rule of 72. And so let's talk about that for a second. So the rule of 72 is basically the eighth wonder of the world, according to Albert Einstein. The rule of 72 is either working for you or against you. And so when you have that rule of 72, you divide it by your interest rate, and that's how often your money is going to double for you. Or if you're paying a credit card, that's how often the money is going to double for that credit card company.
Yeah.
And so it's either working for you or against you. Let's say, for example, 72 divided by 4. A lot of accounts these days, people are getting an average of 4% return over the decades. So if you take 72 divided by 4, that's 18. That means your money's going to double every 18 years. Okay, sure, 18 years. But maybe if you're getting like about an 8 or 9%, then 72 divided by 9 is 8. So wouldn't you rather have your money doubling every 8 years instead of every 18 years? I mean, you're able to get a lot more doubles with that average of 8%, 9% return. So really, you want to be looking for as high of an average return as you can. You don't want to look at just 1 or 2 years. You want to look at maybe like 20 years.
Yeah, I think that's important to note is how many years it takes to double that money. That you won't necessarily get that very consistent average return annually, but it's something that you want to spread out over multiple years because of whatever reasons, right? COVID hit, a lot of things, industries tanked, but a lot of other ones did really well. So it's depending on what you like, your risk tolerance, what you understand. Do you understand real estate? Do you understand stocks? Do you understand life insurance policies, right? And if you're 40, looking to retire at 60, you're going to need a much higher interest rate to be able to get to that goal.
Right. I mean, and talking about doubling money, so, I mean, most people, I don't know about most, but a lot of people, they read their scriptures, right? And in the scriptures, there's the parable of the talents. And when you look at that parable, there's 2 servants who went and doubled their money over a period of time. And then there's a servant who hid his money because he was afraid of losing it. And that's what a lot of people do. They are that slothful servant who had that taken from him and given to the one that made the most. And most people are that lazy and slothful servant who are hiding it in their bank accounts, hiding it under their pillows, in their beds or wherever, and they're not doubling their money. And so there's multiple ways to do it, but the rule of 72 is really where you start in that compounding interest. Part of the equation comes down to what we call the dime method, because that dime method will also help you figure out how much life insurance you need. Because if you should die too soon before you reach your goals, how's your mortgage going to get paid off? How are your debts going to get paid off? So that dime method takes, the D stands for debt. How much debt do you have? The I is your income. It's going to be your yearly income times 10. Because if you should pass away, say your spouse is a stay-at-home spouse, how are they going to be able to go back to work and send the kids to daycare?
Yeah.
That might be a very difficult task. Will they even want to? And so you got to have that yearly income times 10. Then the M stands for mortgage. What do you have left on your mortgage? That's got to be included. And then the E is the education that you want to be able to pay for your children. If you want to help your children pay for college education or whatever type of education they want to have. And so that's one of the best ways to figure out that life insurance need, which works within figuring out how much you need for retirement.
You guys, that's why I love talking to Dan, and I love talking to people that understand money, because you start to realize things that you don't ever think about, right? As he said that, my wife is a stay-at-home mother. If I were to die today, would she be able to send kids to daycare, pay our mortgage? There's a lot of things that would have to happen to make sure that she's taken care of. And that's the things that you have to think about with money. You can't just, like we were talking before, you can't just throw money somewhere and hope that when you retire you have enough. You've got to know where your money's at. How is it working for you? You work hard for your money. Now make it work for you. And that's the rule of 72. That's what we're talking about. And also understand the needs of your family. that is what Dan and I are trying to do and help educate is what are the needs of your family to make sure that they can support themselves. So
Right.
thank you for that.
You're welcome. So kind of as we're talking about this, really, this is just financial education, right? Learning how money works. And that's really just the first step in what we call the 7 money milestones. So let me go ahead and share my screen again.
Yeah, and as he's doing that, so when I started working with Dan, they have this book that he graciously gave me, it's How Money Works, and it's an excellent book. Been reading through it, and it talks about these 7 money milestones. So go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, they're clear, they're powerful, and I mean, there's so many voices that you can listen to. Who do I listen to? Where do I go? Who has the right answers? Like, it's hard to know. But this is simple, easy to understand. Even a 12-year-old can understand this, right? And so we've made this book. We've partnered with Steve Siebold, and he's been across all the news organizations throughout the entire America. Like we said, the 7 money milestones. So the first one is that financial education. Second one is having that proper protection, like we just talked about a moment ago. Do you have enough life insurance? And then, a lot of people talk about having an emergency fund.
Yeah.
Do you have 3 to 6 months put away? If not, let's do that.
Yeah.
Debt management. Are you using the proper debt management? And Bo, you talked about this in one of your other videos, the debt snowball, or using. You said if you use the highest interest rate first, you call it the debt avalanche.
Yep.
Which, I mean, they're both pretty much the same ideas, but you are saving more in interest by starting with the highest interest level first. Cash flow. Are you making enough money? Do you need to make more money? Like, the gig economy is huge right now, especially in COVID. There's so many ways to make money on the side. If someone says, oh, I can't make my bills, well, they're just not working hard enough. Maybe that's a little bit too harsh for someone to hear, but I mean, there's Uber, there's Lyft, there's Uber Eats. Like, there's this app that I saw someone using that's called Bacon, where basically you're a 1099 worker, but you go and work at maybe like some production place or Carl's Jr. or whatever, and you just work for one day at a time.
Yeah.
And you're not obligated to work anymore. So, I mean, there's so many ways to make more money. And then building wealth, that takes time. It takes effort. It takes that compounding interest. And then at the end, protecting wealth. Making sure that you are able to leave a lasting legacy for those that you leave behind for when you die. And so those are the 7 money milestones. And once you're able to have those in place, it's awesome. But still, you want to make sure every year to follow up with your financial professional.
Yes.
Because things in life change all the time, right? People are changing jobs every 3 to 5 years. So maybe there's something that needs to be changed, and so follow up with your financial professional on a regular basis every 1 to 2 years.
Excellent. That is a great foundation. We need things that are clear and concise that we can rely on. And those 7 money milestones are, if you're just starting, that's a great way to build that education and that financial basis. If you haven't dealt with money at all, or if you've dealt with it a lot, you've got to always come back to those basics. Protecting your money. Not only that, but we talked about retirement. How are you going to protect that money in retirement? Taxes, we've talked about this. Taxes are going to be much higher in the future. Inflation is going to go up. A lot of our expenses are going to continue to go up. And one of the other questions that you get is how bad or how good am I compared to other people?
It doesn't matter where you compare to other people, because when you start comparing yourself to other people, you're never going to measure up. And so you're not in the best place that you could be for yourself. So let's work together. Let's figure out where those holes are. Let's come up with a plan together and be able to keep it going on a regular basis. And so let's not worry about what the Joneses are doing, because that's when people, I
was just going to say, that's exactly that mindset. When you start to compare yourself with others, when they're asking that, they're like, hey, do I have the ability to go buy a bigger home, or, get a credit card, or a nice car? No, you should be comparing yourself with yourself. How much money do you need to be saving? Like, could you be saving more? Are you saving enough? That's the question you should be asking.
Yeah, I mean, and even Ed Milet talks about this. He's like, I don't want to compare myself to someone else. I want to compare myself with the best version of myself.
Yes.
How was I last year compared to now? Am I a better person today than I was even yesterday, or am I a better person than I was at the beginning of the day? And I feel the same that Ed does. That when I meet my maker, I want to make sure that I am the best version of myself. That I have done everything I have to be able to make a difference in the world, and especially to my wife and kids. And if I haven't, that's on me.
We are not just talking about a financial education. We're just talking about being the best version of yourself. And when you have money squared away and you have a comfortable, healthy relationship with money, you can then start to work on other things. You don't have to worry about, am I going to be able to pay the bills this month? You can worry about being the best version of yourself.
I don't usually share this with people, but so when I was in my teens, my early teens, I hated money because I saw a lot of bad things that people would do with it, and I grew to hate money so much. But I realized it's a necessary evil, and I thought that way for a long time. But then I would say maybe 6-7 years ago, I finally came to the realization money's just a tool. It's neither good nor evil. It's a tool. And this is something that some of my mentors have really helped me with, because I'm like, I was this type of person that I was afraid to become successful, because I was afraid that if I had more money, that I would start doing bad things and just screw up life and just do all these horrible things. But they reminded me, like, Dan, who are you now? I'm like, well, I'm a loving husband who wants to do the best for my wife and the best for my kids and the best for my family, and be able to be honest with everyone around me. And they said, then that's who you will be when you have more money, because the more money you have, the more good you can do for other people. And that was something that has stuck with me all these years, that who we are now on the inside, because we can put on a facade all we want, right? But it's who we are on the inside is who we're going to be on the outside when all is said and done. It doesn't matter how much money we have, a little bit or a lot of it. We'll just be more of that person.
That's the kind of things that you can accomplish when you have a healthy relationship with everything in life, but specifically money, because it's one of the biggest things and biggest stressors that people worry about, right? And that's why I think that this is the same feeling that we want other people to have. If you don't feel comfortable with money, or you're uncomfortable with talking about it, find somebody like Dan that has a professional license that can help you know where to put your money. If you want to try and do it on your own, I still suggest getting a mentor, somebody that you can talk to and call up and say, hey, is this the right thing? Dan, anything else that you want to share before we wrap it up?
I will say this. As I meet with people, they like to project their best selves, which is not a bad thing, don't get me wrong, but when you're dealing with your finances, in order for your financial professional to do the best for you, you need to be completely honest. Because there's business owners that they're not really a business owner, they're just starting it out and they want to project positively, which is great. But again, we need to live in the right here and right now to figure out how to get to that future. And so be honest with your numbers. Don't fudge them. Don't be dishonest. Be completely 100% legitimate about your numbers, where you're at, where you want. Dream big, right? Where do you want to be? But until you get there, tell the truth. Be honest with your numbers. Don't fudge them, and have everything as accurate as possible.
Awesome. Great advice. You can't know where you're at unless you're completely honest with yourself, right? That's awesome. So, well, Dan, thank you so much for joining me on this call. I look forward to working a lot more with you and helping see how many people we can help. But thank you for your time, and everyone else, we'll see you next week.
Take care.